Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means? The Saturday Morning Hustle Podcast, because we hustle on Saturday. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about you too. You are half of the we equivalent, right? Because we hustle on Saturdays. We come in on Sunday. We come in early. We stay late. We put the extra effort in because we're trying to build something successful. And that takes hard work. Monday through Friday is not going to get you to that next level. And the next big thing is not coming 9 to 5. You guys know this. This is why you're paying attention to the Saturday Morning Hustle. Today, we are going to talk about exactly that, the we. What is it you want and need out of the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast? This is episode 267. Can you believe that? I've been doing this for a while. I've made changes along the way. You can even see I'm set up a little bit different here today. Show you more of that in the second half of this. If you're watching on video, if you're listening on the podcast, go check it on YouTube for the video set up. I'm going to give you guys some behind the scenes, some tips, but I'm absolutely asking you questions. I'm trying to find ways for you to communicate with me what it is you want and need out of the Saturday Morning Hustle, how I can adapt and adopt and change this podcast as change is necessary. I want you guys, the audience, the Saturday Morning Hustle community, to drive that process. So as much as this podcast is me talking to you, I am going to find ways for you to talk to me and play a bigger role in the show, in the social media support, and again, the community that we're trying to build around how to hustle and grind to win, to be successful. Not about working hard, about putting effort in for something you have passion for. It's not simply being busy. You do have to work hard. It's not about being busy. You have to work hard, but you have to work smart. So we have those conversations on this podcast. I want to know more about how to have you motivated so that you work hard, and the tips, the advice, the techniques, the background for you to work smart. If you're going to come in on Saturday, if you're going to put extra time in, if you're going to put extra effort in, it needs to be productive. It needs to be effective. It needs to be smart in its approach, right? So, right, the beginning, the theme, the concept. You tell me what it is you want and need from the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast, social media post, website, etc., to help you be successful. That's the role here. That's what I'm trying to achieve. It's what I'm trying to be helpful with you. It's what I'm trying to get done, is making you successful. When you're successful, we as a community are successful. So tell me what it is you need to succeed. Make a comment on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast or watching the video on YouTube. In the comment section, if there's one available, hopefully there is, depending on what platform you're listening, please make a comment. Let me know what you like, what you dislike, what you'd like to hear more of, etc. You can also leave a review for the podcast. If this is your first time, welcome and fantastic. And you could still leave a review on your impression of the first time. But if this is your second or third or 50th or 100th or 267th time to listen to the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast, please leave a review on your favorite platform to help me in the algorithm, help other people discover the podcast, but also in that review, let people know what you appreciate about the program and what you would like to hear more of and see more of on the podcast and the videos. I would appreciate that greatly. So make a comment, leave a review. And of course, there is the social media, you following on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and the Facebook fan page. You can hit me up on Facebook if we're friends, but you don't have to be friends with me to follow and be a fan, to like the thumbs up. The Saturday Morning Hustle on Facebook as well. Absolutely great places for you to leave comments, to leave your input, to tell me what it is you want from this podcast. Do you want more practical advice for business, for startups, for side hustles, for your self-brand? Do you want tips, tricks, techniques? Do you want a single episode per single topic per episode? Or do you want me to cover a gamut of things? Do you want it to be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I probably can't do more than 30 minutes at a time on a regular Saturday. So is it short? Is it long? Should I be doing continual bonus content? Like right now I'm doing The balance series, the last Monday of each month, is bonus content. It allows me to get outside of I'm in the office on Saturday, hustling and grinding context, and provide you continual value and continual information. That one being focused not just work-life balance, but all of the balance in how you approach decision making in business. Hopefully you guys are checking out that series. Like I said, it comes out the last Monday of every month. So that is bonus content series. I could do bonus content. I could do more Saturday. I could do some on Sunday. I could do something during the week. I could do something once a month, once a quarter, maybe once a year even, if it's something that you're looking for, especially if it's maybe more long form, something that you want to go longer than 20 to 30 minutes or out of the context of what can happen on a Saturday morning. Let me know about bonus content as well. So what content do you want and need? Do you need how-tos? Do you need more motivation? Would you like it to be less technical, less informative, and more about motivation, more about hustle and grind, more about get up, get going? If I can do it, you can do it, that kind of stuff. What do you need to hear? So Saturday Morning Hustle is on the hashtag and on my social media. So the Kyle Golding on Instagram, hashtag Saturday Morning Hustle. Kyle Golding on Twitter, hashtag Saturday Morning Hustle. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. If we're connected, make a comment, leave it there. And the Facebook page, you can hit the Facebook page. You don't have to be my friend on Facebook. If you're someone who I've never met, hit the fan page on Facebook, make a comment there. Or send me a DM on any of those platforms. I'll gladly accept your DMs if it's input and feedback about the Saturday Morning Hustle. And there is a contact form on SaturdayMorningHustle.com. So go to SaturdayMorningHustle.com, hit the contact button. There is a form there. You can leave an email or not, but tell me the input, what it is you want to see and hear from this program, how you want the Saturday Morning Hustle to progress. So why am I making a big deal about changing up the Saturday Morning Hustle? Because change is eventual. Change is necessary. Change is evolution. Change is good. Growth, personal growth, business growth, etc., comes from change. And success comes from the management of change. Sometimes change is forced upon you, or sometimes you try to change something and it doesn't work out for you. So managing that, those loss of expectations, those missed targets, being able to manage that and go back to where you were before you changed is management of change. Embracing things that work, that are different than the way you were doing them before. Like I said, I got this video set up here. I've got all kinds of things that I try on a regular basis. I experiment a little bit. The things that work, I embrace them and move forward with it. That's the management of change. Success comes from the management of change. That's where growth happens. This program needs to be continually growing, and to be successful, I have to change it in the way that you, the consumer, the audience, the market dictates. It's not about me. I can talk about myself all day long. And in fact, I've got some notes from some people that I'm going to discuss here in a minute who say I should talk a little bit more about myself. We'll talk about that in just a minute. There's a balance there. Again, that theme of balance comes back. But I need to know what the audience is looking for. I need to know what I can provide for you. Now, if you're looking for something I can't provide, expertise I don't have, that's one thing. But if enough people are looking for the expertise I have, the experience I have, the ability to communicate to you the way you want to, I'm certainly going to embrace that, because that is positive change. That's where growth comes from. The management of the change is success. So that's what we're going to do. And of course, too, you know what they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different outcomes. I can't do the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast the same way over and over and over again and expect it to grow and to be more successful, because that is a little bit insane. So we started out, the Saturday Morning Hustle, of course, was simply social media post. It was me going in the office, making some social media posts on Instagram and Twitter, turned into short videos, little, hey, I'm in the office, you can do it too type videos. You guys can go see them. They're all still on all my social media. And then when Anchor introduced the 5-minute podcast on the free app on the iPhone a few years ago, I embraced the 5-minute micro podcast, if you will, but it got me started in podcasting. Eventually they expanded past 5 minutes. We've expanded this program to being longer. Now it's we're from 15 to 30 minutes per episode. We're at 10 minutes now on this one. So who knows how we'll end up on this one as well. So these things change. It's necessary to embrace this change. I want this change to come from you. I want it to be driven by this community. I don't ever want this to be about me and my ego. I want it to be about you and how I can help you be successful, how I can motivate you to move forward. Because the better you are in your career, in your side hustle, in your startup, in your business, in your self-brand, then that rising tide lifts all boats. The more success you're seeing, the more success all of us are seeing. And then the ability to share that information, what worked for you, what you want more of, what you can do with it, what you can do with what I give you on the social media allows other people to find ways to do what they can with what we're doing on this podcast and the social media support as well. So it was time to change up the social media, or time to change up the Saturday Morning Hustle. 267 episodes today. So obviously it's time to do that as well. We're embracing it. We're definitely not going to be insane. I think we can do the same program over and over again and let you guys always get the same thing and grow our audience. So let's start out now. I'm going to give you guys some shout outs, some people who've been supportive, who've given me input and advice already. Some of it I'm already using. Some of it I'm trying to figure out how to use. Some of it I'm looking to see if you guys give me the same advice and input from the social media posts that you'll be giving me after this episode. We'll start number one with someone I just met, Brent Smith, who I met at OVF, a local businessman and entrepreneur who quickly got himself an Entrepreneur AF t-shirt. I'm also wearing the black Entrepreneur AF t-shirt with the white text today. You guys can get that at SaturdayMorningHustle.com. Picked up one because he told me that the term Entrepreneur AF, of course, you guys know what it means. It spoke to him. I appreciate it. Someone I just met who jumped right into the Saturday Morning Hustle community and is playing his role. Appreciate you very much, Brent. Ronna Pernell, my sister from another mister. You guys know her. She is the Pernell Images on social media. She is the author of Unspoken Woman, which is a collection, a coffee table book of her art. An amazing artist, but an amazing friend of mine. I got to work with her on that book project. We share a lot of each other's social media. She is super supportive of the Saturday Morning Hustle on social media. She's up every Saturday. She's retweeting. She's making comments. She's on her success path as well. She finally got to quit that day job to pursue art full-time, 100%. Congratulations. Good on you, Ronna. Always positive, always helpful, a full blast. She has swag too, member of the Saturday Morning Hustle community as well. So good on you, Ronna, for always having my back. And went so far as to, Ronna and I shot a pilot episode of a video series that she wants to do. It's all coming out of her head. It's amazing stuff about art and culture in Oklahoma City. Can't wait to do episode 2 of that. Ronna takes this advice that I give you on Saturday Morning Hustle and put it into play. She didn't know how to make a video. She didn't know how to make how to make a podcast, but she wanted to start doing these things because it's a part of her lifestyle. It's authentic to her. It's things that she has passion for. So she's doing it because of the motivation and tips, techniques that she's learned from the Saturday Morning Hustle. So good on you, Ronna. You're my girl. You know that. My guy, Hoang Lam. That's right. The undefeated bro on social media, also the host of the Defining Moments podcast. You can find him reposted on my social media as well. This dude, super positive, not with me, but with everybody. All day, every day, super positive guy. He's also a great supporter. He tells me what he likes, tells me what he wants to hear more of on this podcast. And in fact, because he has a podcast and I have a podcast, we're going to do a swap soon. I'm going to be a guest on his podcast. He's going to be a guest on mine. Hoang is going to show up here on the Saturday Morning Hustle soon because he brings a very interesting perspective and he is super, super positive. And I appreciate that. He is supportive. And that's a good dude. Shout out to you, Hoang, as well. And I've got a group of professional supporters, professional advisors, people who are always there for me on the professional side. My business partners, of course, my business partner, Felicite and Sean in Philadelphia, always giving me real advice. They tell me the truth. They never sugarcoat it. They tell me what's happening, what's not. And they have a completely different perspective on everything because they've been in Philadelphia for the last 4 or 5 years now. And so they're seeing things differently in the business community than I am. So behind the scenes, we have a lot of conversations. Of course, our other business partner, Pritchard, APR, fellow PRSA, the superstar of public relations, the professor, who has now semi-retired. He's a member of the Golding Group. He is a partner as well. We do our podcast together, the Golding Group Strategic Growth Podcast, formerly the Neo Marketing Podcast. We changed that title about a month ago. I've done hundreds of episodes with Pritch as well on the business podcast. If you're really into the nuts and bolts of business, of entrepreneurism, of starting and running a business, go check out that podcast as well. We do that twice a month. The Golding Group Strategic Growth Podcast. You can find that. Pritch is always good about telling me the truth and guiding me in different ways, different perspectives than I have normally. And of course, my wife, Cher Golding, the lady in my life who I run every idea past. Everything that I do always starts with, what do you think about this? She's honest. She lets me know, but she's supportive and she is positive as well. So that's my core of who is professionally advising me on what to do, but talking to them a lot lately about the potential, maybe expanding this podcast, expanding the business podcast I'll do with Pritch, maybe writing a book or a series of articles, things of that nature, trying to take all this content and put it into a format. That's one of the reasons I'm coming and talking to you today, the audience for this podcast, about what it is you want to see and hear, because I'm trying to figure out the best ways to create content, manage the content, and then put it out in ways that's super beneficial to everyone. Again, I believe in a rising tide lifts all boats. So if I can create content that help other people, those people are going to be able to do business with me in the future, or be helpful, or benefit their community, or benefit other entrepreneurs, other people on the rise. I always tell you, right? There's someone above you and below you in the success path. Bring people along so that people that have far advanced further than you have can bring you along as well. That's part of the process. That's part of my professional core. In that professional core, but also very, very focused on the Saturday morning hustle, is my girl, Vicki Langford from Project 3810. She's my landlord. She's a client, but we're friends as well. We spend a lot of time together in the hallways and at events for Project 3810, supporting the community that she's building around the incubator that we have here and the other tenants involved. Vicki is very specific on advice and input she gives me about the Saturday morning hustle. She's always been very supportive of it as a brand. And then recently sent me a note about engaging more on the personality side, maybe telling more stories about myself. In particular, lessons I've learned when I was younger in my profession, when I was closer to amateur than expert in the things I'm doing now. Some lessons I learned, mistakes I made, things that benefited for me. I often joked I've had more bad bosses than good bosses, and I've learned tons of lessons from those people. So Vicki has encouraged me to tell those stories, but also, for those of you who don't know me very well, I spent 15 years in the music industry from the 80s through the 90s, touring around the world and working with musicians and doing all kinds of things before I got into marketing full-time around 2000, and spent the last 22 years doing marketing and eventually business development and what the Golding Group became and all of that stuff that leads into all my experience and background that I try to pour into the Saturday morning hustle as well. And Vicki wants to hear more stories, more personal anecdotes, and more lessons I've learned from being in the music business as opposed to being in a straight business development startup industry. So I'm considering doing that. I'm working on some ways I can kind of formulate, what I learned from touring, what I learned from a mixing console, what I learned from working on albums, what I learned from collaborating, working with artists. Sometimes artists can be temperamental. I say that as all my friends are artists. I'm an artist as well. Artists, musicians can be temperamental. They can be hard to work with. They can be very interesting to deal with. They're very set in their ways, but that's where their vision comes from. I did learn a lot of lessons, and in fact launched myself into sort of professional marketing and where I'm at now, 22 years later in that path, because of a lot of things I learned from the music business and building my business there. I had my own business in that industry, and then I had that huge career change. This whole deal, 1998, fell off my mountain bike, broke my neck, broke my jaw, couldn't tour anymore, had to make a transition. That's how it all works. This is just a little example of some of the stories I have. So if you want to hear more stories, more personal anecdotes, more things from my past, more lessons I learned from this situation, that is not in the norm, not necessarily business, but more life-related, more of those balance conversations, work-life balance, and how to balance decision A versus balance decision B, I'd like to hear from you. These are things that Vicki Langford at Project 3810 is constantly pushing me to do more of. And so I appreciate you very much for that, Vicki, as well, for being that person who is constantly adding to my podcast, adding to the social media, adding to the Saturday Morning Hustle. And then, of course, the Project 3810 podcast is here in my studio. I got her podcasting as well. She resisted for at least a year. She's done 7 episodes of that podcast. I was the guest on the latest episode of that, hopefully posted sometime next week after you hear this podcast. And she mentions there that I've been motivating her to do that as well. So that is a full cycle that's coming back, where things I put out in the world have coming back to me, and someone who I supportive of them and they're supportive of me. That's what we're trying to build here on the Saturday Morning Hustle. So these are the people who have been influential directly with me, but I want you to be one of those people. I want you to have more input. I want everyone listening to this podcast, again, if it's the first time you've listened or the 267th time you've listened to the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast, I want your input. I want to know what you want to hear. I want to know if it needs to be super technical or if it needs to be casual. If you want to hear more stories or more tips and tricks, if you want to know more about the setup I have, the microphones I use, the recorder I have, the lighting in the studio for the videos. I've even rolling a behind the scenes GoPro right now. So if you're watching the video, I'm going to show you how the whole room is set up, and then come into the shot that I have, and then come into how it gets edited down to the vision that is presented via YouTube and then the social media post as well. So all of that's there, the behind the scenes, the tips, the tricks, the techniques, the stories, the anecdotes, the advice, but there's also motivation, there's inspiration, there's telling you other people's stories. There's helping you find something that makes sense for you along the way. How can you best latch onto it? I'm absolutely asking you for that. I want you to be a part of that. I want you to play a role and give me your feedback, your input. Again, go to the social media channels, make a comment on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, etc. A rising tide lifts all boats. It happens every time. So don't think that I don't want to hear your input and advice. I absolutely do. So we're going to wrap it up with that, folks. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe, and stream each and every Saturday. Make sure you leave that comment and review. Share this with a friend. Tell someone in person. Share it on social media. Send it in an email. I would completely appreciate that. And of course, if they get value out of it, they'll probably appreciate it as well. So make sure you get your swag too. The Saturday Morning Hustle swag, EntrepreneurAF, coffee and donuts, all of that good swag that you can get at SaturdayMorningHustle.com. All previous posts, Saturday morning posts, social media posts, and all podcast episodes, and all the platforms where you can listen, stream, subscribe to the Saturday Morning Hustle are at SaturdayMorningHustle.com, like you would expect. Make sure that you hit us up, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the fan page on Facebook. Check out the Professional Balance series as well. I alluded to that earlier. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means, this Saturday Morning Hustle, because 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, is just not going to get you there. This is the podcast for people who are willing to come in early, stay late, put the extra effort in, and work hard for something they have passion for, they want to be successful at, that they can own, manage, and make their own. Appreciate you guys so much. Hit me with that feedback. I'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Hustle. Because if it's Saturday, I'm in the office. We are Saturday Morning Hustling.
Saturday Morning Hustle. Saturday Morning Hustle. Saturday Morning Hustle. Wake up and keep chasing your dreams.